So now that you know the idea of pilot jobs, let's see the idea in action if you're using the specific software, Makeflow and WorkQueue, in order to run a large workload. So let's suppose you've written a large workflow. We'll call it sims.mf, mf for Makeflow. And you've put it in a file here to represent your entire workflow. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to use the pilot job system WorkQueue in order to harness nodes from our cluster. So instead of starting with the workflow, we're going to use a tool called WorkQueue Factory. Which is going to generate our pilot jobs. Now, when we use WorkQueue Factory, we have to tell it what kind of batch system to use. And we also have to select a name for our workload. So I'm going to use dash big T Condor, because we're going to use the Condor batch system, and dash big N Sims to represent the logical name of the workload. Now, when I do that with WorkQueue Factory, what it's going to do is start submitting workers over to the Condor batch queue. And I'll use just the letter W to indicate a worker process. So we may have a large number of them here. And you can control how many workers you have by using the dash W options. So if I say dash W5, that means a minimum of 5 workers. And if I say dash big W100, it means a maximum of 100 workers. So now Condor is going to take these workers, and it's going to schedule them onto the cluster, perhaps after some delay. So each of these workers is going to get placed onto the cluster somewhere. And then each worker, as it establishes itself, is going to set up a cache directory. And then it's going to start looking for a Makeflow with the name of Sims. So we'd better start that. So over here, I'm going to start Makeflow. And I have to specify where I want it to send its jobs. Instead of sending them to Condor, I'm going to send them to my WorkQueue workers. So I specify dash big T WQ, short for WorkQueue. And then I have to specify the logical name of this workload to match this guy here. So I'm going to call it Sims. But you can call it anything you want. You can give it your name or your project or your analysis, whatever it is that you want to call it. And then I have to specify the name of the workflow as well, or the file in which it is contained. So that's sims.mf. And now Makeflow is going to read that in. Now, initially, it's not going to do anything, because Makeflow can't do anything until it has some workers that actually want to talk to it. So these workers start up, and eventually they call home to Makeflow here and say, I'm ready to start running some jobs. So Makeflow is going to look at the first available job here, send it over to the worker who's going to run it. And we may have multiple workers going simultaneously. And furthermore, if each of those workers is managing a large multi-core machine, and each of these tasks only requires 1 core, then each of those workers can run multiple tasks simultaneously. So we can have several tasks going simultaneously here and achieve a very high throughput. So that's an example of using pilot jobs with a specific system of WorkQueue submitting jobs to Condor, and then Makeflow accessing the workers directly. And by doing this, we pay the price of going through the Condor queue once, and then Makeflow can interact very quickly with each of those individual workers and effectively run a workflow that has short jobs or data dependencies, and do it much more efficiently than talking to Condor directly.